Today I have Consuela Munoz with me. Very excited. Welcome, Consuela.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Love talking about Warrior and everything related to it. So I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk to you because we have a lot in common with our squirrel brains, shiny object syndrome. So I'm just going to let you jump in and introduce yourself and talk a bit about what you do.
Yeah, so Consuela Munoz, and I am your full impact speaker and coach. And I work with entrepreneurs, creatives, speakers who want to defeat their shiny object syndrome so they can really finally get that focus they need so they can finish the things that they start and have the impact that they're meant to have in this world.
I love it. And for those who don't know, I've gone through one of Consuela's programs, the 12-week year, and it was so helpful. It made me really realize, a lot of the things I was like, have my squirrel brain going. I'm gonna do this to this to this, and then I also realized that something always comes up in my life. So it was a really great time for you to help me, kind of like, okay, Wendy, this is something we're seeing every week. Something's always coming up. How can we plan ahead for these, my crazy life? So it was so helpful.
Well, I'm glad you found it helpful, and it is something to short circuit, if you will, that shiny object syndrome cycle. Like
Yeah.
once you start chasing after shiny objects, you kind of get in that mode, and you can even speed it up, like, oh no, and bound on me, and you start jumping from one thing to the next thing faster and faster. But
Yeah.
finding a way to like bring that to a halt and really realizing that that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if I just bring my focus in and keep it in, all the things you can really achieve when you keep that focus together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it made just such a huge difference. Sometimes it's just accountability. It's just kind of recognizing the things that are happening in your life where when you don't have people kind of helping you see that, we can justify, oh, well, I had this happen this week. I had this happen this week. So, oh, I have this new crazy idea. I should run with it. Oh, but here's another idea over here. And it's that I think it's the dopamine hit. Is that what it
Yes.
is? It's
Yep.
that dopamine hit of something new when you didn't finish this thing, and I was just notorious for that. So it really helped me kind of get on the straight and narrow now where I'm like, is it related to speaking? Is it related to what I'm doing? If it's not, it's got to get on that other part of my board that says it's going to stay here and we can revisit it, but right now it doesn't serve you.
Yes.
You
And
know.
I think a lot of folks, when you talk about accountability, so many folks that I've spoke to, when they're thinking about their goals, either if they work for someone else is giving them their goals, so they're hard to kind of keep to. But
Yeah.
most entrepreneurs, creatives, kind of are in charge of themselves. So you think I set my own goals, and yet most people have a goal they feel like they're supposed to do, or has definitely external um, influence on. And
Yeah.
because of that external influence, they don't necessarily own the goal completely. And if you don't own your goal, it's hard to keep yourself to account for it. You really
True.
need to write something. And this is one of the things I talk about, that when you read it, you have this strong, positive, emotional response to that goal, because that is so important that nothing can distract you from it. And if you're setting your goals in that way, it's a lot easier to maintain that commitment to the actions you have to do to
Yeah.
actually achieve that, right?
Yeah, and it's great because and that was part of your program too that I really enjoyed is it wasn't generalized. Like we all had to sit down and had to write out our own. We'd be very specific about our actions, the things we were going to do, and it was specific to us. And
Yes.
so that makes a difference. It's not like, oh, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and then I have to somehow figure out how that fits into my schedule, fits into my business. But what you had us do was so helpful because it was really specific to me and I had to come up with the things, and it was awesome. So
Well, and for me, I mean, words are really important, right? And so if for me, if I use the word create versus make,
hmm.
it feels more powerful. Like I want to create things more than I want to
Yeah.
make things. So
Oh
if I
yeah.
use that word, it makes a difference to me when I read that sentence.
Yeah.
And that's something that is important for people to catch on. You know, the other thing with the accountability and all that we talk about, and the dopamine hits, right? When we're charging through and we've got this idea and we start working on it, you know, we kind of start really super excited, and then we realize, like, dang, this is going to be some work.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're kind of still doing it, but then you're doing some of that work and you're like, man, I this isn't working. I don't have any results. And it's about that time that your brain's like, oh, look, there's something else I can do, because
Yeah.
it's easier to go jump and start something else that maybe is going to make the success you want
Yeah.
than to necessarily keep pushing through. And by bringing that focus in, because you've already decided that that end goal is so important, you'll push through that hard part, that where it's really difficult to do and nothing's happening yet. You'll push past that to the
Yeah.
point where you can get to see, okay, okay, things are starting to work, and boom, then you'll have the results.
Yeah. And it
It's
makes
all
a
tied
huge difference.
together.
Yeah, I love that. And excuse me. And I love the process you take your clients through. It's, you kind of make it fun too at the same time, but also it's just a process. It's a great process to go through. And it's that constant reminder, like you're doing this for a reason. Let's stay on track.
Well,
um,
and I think, you know, I love fun. Adventure is my number one value.
yeah.
And having it be fun is important. And the process we use is some structure, but it's a loose structure, because for the most part, I'm dealing with folks that have squirrels as an issue, right? Like everybody in my group is chasing shiny objects, which means they're not going to be naturally geared to having a ton of structure. So we
Right.
want some, it's more like, it's not like the rails when you're bowling. It's not that, but we do have some, some like more like pool noodle ones on the side, kind of keeping us in,
Yeah.
but not so rigid that we can't move around. But we want to have some rails and some structure, and so I always talk about, how do we set goals for those of us that are goal adverse, and this is how we kind of look at that, right?
Yeah. Goal has always been a four-letter word in my mind. So until I met you, so that made a big difference. Let's talk a bit about how you got here. So, let's talk about some challenges, some things that you've had to conquer and overcome to get to where you're at.
Yeah, so I like that, goals as a four-letter word. And I would say, I've been in that camp as well, having worked in corporate for a long time, and it's very structured there. And I had an entrepreneurial mindset, but I was in corporate. So it's not
Right.
always, really appreciated, because they want you to do the thing they want you to do right now. And so once I'm out of corporate, then it's like, boo, I can do all the things whenever I want. I'm in charge. And
Yes.
I don't know that I should have been in charge, right? Like, that wasn't necessarily the best thing for me, because I would be working on something, when I first started, this is what I'm going to do as a coach. I'm going to do this. And then, ooh, I have this new idea for this new cool product. And now I'm going to coach on this. And then, after a year of that, like, oh, well, then pandemic, woo. So now I'm going to coach on something else because that doesn't work anymore. So constantly switching my focus.
Yeah.
But as you know, we were at an event together.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of our story, but we're at an event together, and Wendy's up on stage, and she's going to ask a question of our virtual keynote speaker, Mel Robbins. And I had kind of snuck into this one a little late, and I was sitting in the back of the room, like kind of in the center in the back row. And and when I say it's like 100+ small business owners, and we're all sitting there, and Wendy's like, I have all these ideas running around my mind. They're like rabid squirrels. What do I do about that? How do I decide which one to do first? And I leaned in, and it was like, as I leaned in, like the whole audience was like we're all waiting, like, okay, what is the brilliant thing that she's going to tell us to do about this problem?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if any of you know Mel Robbins, she's like, you got to kill squirrels. Oh my God, we're all laughing. It's hilarious. It's
Like,
funny. And I'm
no.
sitting there and I'm like, but but I love my squirrels. What?
Yeah.
My ideas are brilliant. I don't know about you, but every one of my ideas is obviously brilliant. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
There's
Yeah,
my
no,
death
people
squirrel.
send me squirrels all the time. So I'm like, holy cow. But here's the thing, just like anytime when you go to a 3 day event or any kind of conference where you're hearing speaker after speaker and you're just like taking all the information in,
Yeah.
when it was over for the day and I was thinking through and processing everything, I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
I have shiny object syndrome, like really bad. And it's getting in my way. It's keeping me from being as successful as I intend to be, as I
Yeah.
know I'm meant to be. And I'm like, dang, I'm going to have to do something different, or I'm not going to have the success I want. So what is that going to be? But I know me. Like, this isn't going to be an easy thing for me to solve. And so the next day they had this goal setting session. Now I had signed up for it because, one, the lady delivering it, I love her to pieces. I thought she's
Yep.
awesome. Plus, we got lunch and a really awesome dessert.
Hmm.
And so I was already planning to go, but now I was like, you know what? I should probably take this serious instead of what I planned to do, which was pretend to write goals and eat the dessert. So I'm like, okay, I need to focus. But I kind of tuned out a little bit what they're saying and really came up with, like, how do I write a goal, throwing out what people think about when they're setting goals? How do I write a goal that means something to me, that
Yeah.
I want so bad? And so that's what I did. So I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
okay, awesome. But you know how it is. You know how it is. So weekend's over. It's like, woo, go back to work. Conference is over. And I'm like, holy, how am I gonna actually make a change? Because I know that, okay, I'm back from the conference. Next thing I know, next new training, next new thing, I'll
Yeah.
be off to the races again.
Yep.
And so how do I keep that focus? And that I knew I needed a process that was going to be quick. It had to be a short thing because I wasn't
Yep.
going to do a lot of steps. Somebody give me 20 steps to make something work, I'll be like, oh, I don't
Yeah. No.
I don't even want to read them, let alone do them, right? So I knew it had to be a short process. I'm a strengths coach as well. So I'm like, okay, I don't have focus. I don't have discipline. I don't have consistency as natural strengths. So how do I use the strengths I do have to make a process that works for me to do that? And I think that's an important piece of the thing. What are your strengths and how can you use them to figure out how you're going to have the focus and discipline that you need? How do you make that work for you based on your strengths? And so I kind of came up with, my getting gear process and my tool, the impact board, that really helped me stop chasing. Oh my gosh, I saved so much money once I started using this, because before that, I would say yes to everything, every training, like, oh, I need to be certified in that. Why? Why do I need to be certified in everything? I don't know. But I stopped saying that and stopped doing that. And that saved me a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of crazy messes in my head.
Yeah.
Because when you're constantly going to learn something from someone new, it's always the opposite of what you learned the last week. And then my brain would be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so it really cut down on a lot of that confusion and made it easier for me to clearly see where I was trying to get.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was really that pivot point where I started focusing on this and it started working so well. I'm like, I don't think I'm the only person that could use this, because I feel like, and when I looked it up, the research says that 9 out of 10 small business owners have suffered from shiny object syndrome at least once in
Wow.
their career. And you know me, I read that and I'm like, really? Number 10, are you fibbing? Because I don't know how you didn't be suffering from shiny object syndrome, because it is something that's natural for
Yeah.
us until we go too far with it, that gets us in
Right.
trouble.
And it's interesting because obviously, we were both there. We both had that aha moment. And then when she said, "You got to kill the squirrels," I had the same reaction you did. Like, I don't want to kill my squirrels. I want to herd them and love them and pet them. And it's kind of that George thing where you're killing all your squirrels because you love them too much. um, so what was interesting, what I did was I took that and it became another shiny object, what she said to me. So instead of focusing on what I was doing, which I was kind of in the networking arena at that time, I'm like, oh, okay, so I need to figure out how then. So I was trying to go the same direction you were, but that's not my strength to figure that out. I didn't do strength. So I was trying to figure something out. And then I had this kind of aha moment, like, what the hell am I doing? I'm doing exactly what Mel told me not to do. I'm creating a new squirrel, you know, so when you and I connected, you're like, "Oh, Wendy, I have this idea." I'm like, "Oh, thank God. I don't have to do the thing that I thought everybody needed." So it was such a relief, like when you were doing this, because that is your arena with as a strength coach. A confident in everything you were doing that fit in. What I was doing, it did not fit in.
Right.
I cannot tell you how many times I have wanted to. I've had two podcasts, but I had to take them off my plate because when I kind of narrowed down what I was doing, I'm like, "This isn't serving me." But I can't tell you how many times since then I've wanted to start a podcast. I'm like, okay, breaks, put it on the impact board and revisit it. And it's like, yeah, no, I don't need to be doing that right now. I need to focus on what I need to focus on.
What you're doing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm doing right now. And it's just fascinating to me how many of us there are like that. So I'm so happy that you took that and ran with it because that is your zone of genius. And I've seen you helping people, along the way with it, myself included. Um, which brings me to, so obviously we know where you're at now. We know that you've really honed in on this, and you have this amazing program or programs, correct, of what you're doing now. So do you want to talk a bit about like what are you doing now with all of this, with what you've created?
Yeah, so the program, and we talked, I just want to mention real quick because we've kind of we're tossing around because we both know what it means, and that is
Right.
my impact board. And
Oh
so the
yeah.
impact board, you're writing your goal on there so you can see it all the time and you don't change it, because
Right.
that's something we do, right? And so you have your goal on there, and then every new idea that comes up to you, whether it's a small idea or a big idea, and I mean everyone, because it's easy to get on a slippery slope, and so we evaluate every idea against the goal that we're trying to achieve, and then we decide, is this idea something that belongs in action? I can use it right now to help me achieve this goal right now, or is it a distraction? Is it something that's would be great and is going to be brilliant, but isn't for me right now?
Yeah.
And so that is why we use the impact board to quickly like do that. Now we get to store them so we can see them in a place where you can see them all the time. So you don't have to think about them anymore because you've stored them on the board. And that's what when we keep mentioning kicking around the impact board, that's what that is. But where am I right now? So I always say we can see a lot of people here. It's me and my dogs. That's who I'm talking about, right? But the program that I have is Get Into Gear. And the GEAR is an acronym for goals, evaluate every idea, accountability, and rewards, because we need to reward ourselves along the way. And the program is we come in and we do a lot of work up front to figure out what it means for your vision, what it means for your 36-month goals, and what it means for your goals for the next 12 weeks. We operate on a 12-week year system, so we want to bring your focus in to 12 weeks because we can do almost anything for 12 weeks and
Yeah.
not be too distracted. I mean, we can be if we want to, but when we're trying, we can stay really focused for that 12 weeks. And so we bring that in and we talk about and really try to get through the difference in what is an actual goal for you and what are the actions that are best for us to do for that goal. Um, a lot of times, what I find folks doing is thinking about them in the opposite way. So
Hmm.
they think about the actions they want to do, or they could do, or they think they should do. And how is that going to help me achieve some goal? And I want to flip that and say, no, what is the goal you want? And now let's figure out what actions. Because what people end up doing when you think about all the actions you could take,
Right.
if you haven't set them out in a plan and said, no, I'm going to do these three actions are the one I have to do. If you haven't done that, you wake up and it's what day is today? Thursday. You wake up and you're like, let's see, I think today maybe I'll update my website. Yeah, that sounds like something. And so now today you're updating your website. But if that wasn't something that's going to move the needle forward, were you productive or were you just busy?
Yeah.
And so when we think about actions first and things we want to do or we think we should do, they may not be the thing that actually helps us achieve our goal. So we want to think about what are those 2 to 5 actions that if we do them on a regular basis, boom, our results will happen. And that's what we focus on in the program. And then we have some weekly check-ins, as you know, our
Mhm.
WAM meetings. Once a week for 30 minutes, we get together. What is our score? We score ourselves on how well we took our actions, and we talk about our score and any problems we're having. And that is the way that you hold yourself accountable, but you
Yeah.
have a lot of community support in these WAMs to really get you to where you're achieving. Now, the fun thing is, I feel like in our group, we focus so heavily on actions that
Mm.
we don't have to stress out about results. We
True.
take the actions, the results will happen. They're just implied, they're assumed. And so the pressure from having that result goes away because you can control your actions, you cannot control the results. So take the actions, the results will happen. If you don't take the action, you can't be mad that you don't have any results. And you know exactly what the reason is. Like, well, I didn't do any of my actions. So like, and there's no excuses, there's no whatever, because you own your goal. So you
Yeah.
really hold yourself accountable, and we're just there to support.
And what I love about the WAM meetings, obviously, there's a bunch of us in there, and at first it seems like, oh gosh, I didn't do good. I don't really want to say, but it's you have to say the hard thing out loud. Like it's okay if you didn't get all your action things. You can try harder next week. And if you're competitive, like I am, like, okay, now I really want to do better next week because I didn't have the numbers. And it's a really great place where nobody's judging you because we all have up and down weeks. Some people have a really great week. Some people are like, I was on the struggle bus all week. I was like a turtle running around in peanut butter. So like I wasn't getting very far, you know. So it's a really supportive group. It's so helpful. So what do you have coming up that if anyone who's watching wants to connect with you, do you have something coming up they can kind of jump into?
Yeah, so next month I'm running a mini course. It's from idea to impact, crushing your goals in 12 weeks. So we'll be running that. It's a 90-minute course. Typically it's 197, but I love Wendy and I love the Warrior group. And so for you, Wendy, I want to be able to give it to your group for 27, and that'll be
Wow.
next month. Yep.
That's awesome. Oh my God. That's what I call a no-brainer offer, to bring it down to $27. If you're watching this, jump on it. I'm telling you, it will help catapult your business and really kind of get your mind back on track. I have train cars that kind of just jump off track sometimes, and it's hard to kind of
Keep
get them
them
back
in,
in
keep them in.
line.
You got those pool noodles on the side. That's,
Yeah.
keep everything kind of in place. But it really is a way for those of us who have lots of ideas and lots of things. A lot of times, entrepreneurs, we just think in a different way, right?
We
So we're
do.
always generating ideas. We have like really high initiative. We're willing to take the risk and face it. Some of us are a bit impulsive, right? And
Oh,
so you know who I'm talking to. So we're a bit impulsive, and then we can do all the things, and it, our energy is at different levels at different times. So our energy is really up. I'm like, yeah, we say yes to all the things, and then next week our energy is like, oh. But
right.
now we've said yes to all these things. That's when we get overwhelmed and stressed, and then our response can be like, that's it. I'm not doing any of this.
Yeah.
It's too much, so I'm doing nothing. And we want to keep that energy a little bit more even
Yes.
by doing that, and really focusing on, what are the actions I know I need to take, and by setting them ahead of time, and because they're regular, like, oh, I'm going to make this many phone calls a day, or I'm doing this every week. Even if you have a bad week, next week it's a new week, and you already know what you have to do. You're not getting up and going, wonder what I should do today, because you already have set that and you know what you're supposed to do. And it makes it easier for us to just like jump in. It's kind of like setting your outfit out the night before. Then
Yeah.
you don't have to decide, like, I already know what it is. I'm gonna step into that, and I don't have to spend 20 minutes figuring out what am I supposed to be doing today, because it's already decided.
Yeah. And for me, sometimes if I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, I may not just do anything. I may just decide to sit on the couch and scroll social media. And
Oh
how
my
is that
God.
moving the needle forward? It's not. And so
So
it's a
what
self-destructive behavior.
funny story a little bit, but so I operate in this way. So for me with the 12-week year, any big idea like a podcast or a book or any of those things, automatically a distraction.
Hmm.
You're gonna look at that like, is that something I want to do next 12-week year? Then I can fit that in. I plan around it, but it
Yeah.
has to be put on the board. And so I have writing a book. It's on the distraction, but I have a book, a chapter title that I'm really like playing with off on the side. Like it just stuff pops up, but I put it on the board when it does. Like I don't keep track of it. I put it on the board. But my chapter title is that action is self care.
Hmm.
Because so many times, we get overwhelmed, we get stressed, and we're like, oh, I need to do some self care, which in my case is a nap or chocolate or both, So that I could do that,
Right.
or I could do the action I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I've found when I do the action I know I'm supposed to do that I don't want to do for whatever reason, whether I'm afraid of failing or success or judgment or it's not perfect, no, whatever I'm afraid of doing it. I haven't done it before. I don't know if it'll work, whatever that is. If I just do it,
Yeah.
I feel better. Now,
It's
I'll probably
true.
still have the chocolate because that might be a reward. But you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I feel better for doing it than not. If I would have went and took the nap, that thing would still be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if I don't face it,
Yeah.
it's just going to get bigger and badder to me. So facing it, taking the action actually helps me feel better than if I
Hmm.
didn't.
It's so true. And, we put it off, then we have guilt that creeps up. We have self-sabotage, like we get in this, it's a
We let the
nonstop.
voices get loud. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
It's so
sure.
hard to break out of. Um,
And then you could then you've put it off, and now it becomes a festering wound, some issue that now you're past your deadline or some other things are going to happen. But
yeah.
part of you told yourself if you didn't do it or you're not going to do it well, it would not work. And so by not doing it, you make sure that you're still right
Yeah.
because it didn't work, but it didn't work because you sabotaged yourself and didn't do it. Like you wanted it not to work.
Right.
Why did you not want it to work? Right?
Yeah. And what I really love is that you're the shining example. I mean, honestly, and no, I'm serious because I see a lot of people that are teaching things out there that they're not necessarily doing themselves, and I've watched you since last year's Warrior Unchained event. You were a vendor there. You launched the impact board. I mean, just from when you went there to where you're at now, if you weren't following all the things that you're teaching, it wouldn't have grown to where you're at right now. And so that's where I saw that opportunity. We're like, I need to get her on the stage. That's why you were invited to speak at Warrior Unchained, because I've watched that growth. And like as soon as well, plus I love the what you do anyways, because obviously it helped me so much. So what was your experience then? So like when you were at Warrior Unchained last year as a vendor, what was your experience like? Because it was your first Warrior event. So
It it was it's hard to put in exact words, right? Like
yeah,
from the
I get
time I
that.
was in corporate and even the time as an entrepreneur and all the events I went to,
Yeah.
it's just a different atmosphere. It just is a different atmosphere, a different energy. Everybody, I mean, there's plenty of people that are doing the same things,
Right.
but you don't feel any ick with that. I don't know if
Right.
ick is a real word there, but you don't feel any like everybody is just there to support each other and we're all going to grow and we're all going to lift each other up the whole day and all the stuff we're taking in.
Yeah.
Whatever stories we're hearing, we're all just taking that in and growing. It's almost like you can feel people growing as the
Yeah.
day goes on. Like people are just growing as
Yeah.
they're there. And it is a women's event, so I think that's probably part of the reason.
Right.
But we just all are there just like, "Argh!" And we just, when you talk about the story where you came from, the name, like the warrior and unleash your warrior,
Right.
giving us permission as women to unleash our own warriors. I think we do that while we're there. We just start like, I am, and here I am, right? Like, and all the different kind of different experiences that you have for us. And I don't know, I don't want to give anything away
That's
too
okay.
early, but like some of the things that you do, it's like you're not going to do that anywhere else. And then you bring in, which is your natural strength, right? Part of you is this music and this entertainer, and you bring that stuff in with all the stories we're getting and with all the growth we're meant to have. And it just
Yeah.
makes for a very powerful time together.
Awesome.
Obviously, I enjoyed it.
And to me, like for me, it's got a balance, right? That's why I bring the music in and the activities, things that are very immersive and interactive. Because otherwise, if we just sat in our seats all day and just listened, which is great, you can get tons of information. But I feel like the speakers when they come into my house, I want to, into the warrior stage. Like I had Alexis last year, who, she had her presentation ready to go, and then like when she heard the speakers and me tell my story, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to share more of my story. Like I had this whole speech, but I'm going to go off script because I feel like I can share more here." And
Yeah.
so it is that atmosphere where we go a little bit deeper, we share a little bit more, and I think that there's more chances to relate to one another. And I think that's why we're like, "Holy shit." Like we have that moment like, I've had that happen with me with the speakers I brought on where I'm in the audience thinking, I didn't know that about that person.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, like it helps you really relate to them, and it's to me that's more empowering than putting someone on stage that relates to nobody, but you learn a lot. Like that's great
Right.
and all, but like, I need to know
Well,
who
and
you are.
you do feel like, and in part because it's ladies, right? But
Yeah,
like, oh, these, like, you really get to know people
yeah,
versus just like you're saying, even if a speaker is amazing and they're teaching you something and they're sharing, it's not sharing in the same way that now you feel like you know them. And because the
yeah,
speakers are vendors and they're there throughout the lunch, like you're all in the same space and you just got your turn on stage. Like we're
yeah,
all equals figuring this out together and
yeah.
supporting each other. And that feels different. And it feels like, how would I ever want to miss one of these? Because all my best buds are there. Like I have to go back because everybody there becomes your best bud.
And I've heard that from quite a few people who are like, all the connections I made, even the people who weren't at the first one, who came the second year, or the ones that were, like they've made friendships that have lasted. So they've come back for the second one, and they're coming back for the third one because they're like, it's like a snowball effect. You're gathering friends as you go, and then the collaborations that I've seen come out of it. It's kind of, it's some kind of weird magic that happens in the audience because, like you're saying, I the response is always it's hard to describe. Like it's just something you have to be there to experience. And like, how do you market that? How do you say, well, we can't tell you why it happens this way or what it is, but you should be there.
You should. Like, do you want to leave glowing? Do you
Right.
want to grow in a day? Then you should
Right.
come. Then you should
Yeah,
be there. You
exactly.
know, I guess you
So,
play on people's FOMO a little bit, but seriously,
right.
like it's just different
Yeah.
and more fun and more amazing than almost any event I've ever been to. You just want to be there.
And it's interesting because we always blow up social media that weekend of Warrior Unchained, because there are lots of pictures that float around. I have heard from people like, oh man, I didn't get my ticket this year because I wasn't really sure. And then like, I'm definitely coming next year. Like once all those photos started hitting like Facebook and wherever else they were at, I'm like, yeah, it's like, people that are there, they want to share. They're taking selfies with one another. Like, hey, I just made a new friend. Just spoke to so-and-so at her booth, saw, whoever on stage, and all the other activities that we're doing. I love going in. If you put in like hashtag Warrior Unchained Live, you can see just a
All the time.
thread. If you search that hashtag, it's unreal how many pictures and videos you'll find. And you can kind of experience it a little bit through those photos and see what's going on. So I mean, it's pretty fun.
And I think for me, in my part, like I'm always the person that forgets photos. Like if I go
Yeah.
have a coffee or something and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't take a picture, so there's no proof it happened." But when you're at Warrior,
Yeah.
it's like the amount of fun you're having is so high that you have to take a picture. You have to,
Yeah.
because you absolutely can't miss capturing it.
Yeah.
So I think that leads to why there's so many pictures, because everybody's just having too much fun not to take a picture.
Right, that's true. I mean, it's great to be present in the moment where you forget, of course, but then like those moments where you're like, "Oh, let's take a picture of this because we're having so much fun," or or whatever that looks like. So I'm excited. So this year you're going to be on the main stage. So you want to share? I mean, we've talked a lot about what you do, but do you want to share just a little bit about what you'll be talking about and what you'll be sharing on the Warrior stage this year?
Yeah, so we'll be talking about shiny object syndrome. I have parts of my story that I'm going to bring in that I haven't talked about today,
Ooh,
and why um, urgency is so important to me. So we'll be talking about that, and really just looking at how can I help anyone figure out their most important thing they want to achieve in their lifetime and how that
yeah,
relates to what they're going to do right now and how you
awesome.
get from where you are to that thing that you want to achieve.
And I was strategic this year in planning the speaker lineup. So Lynn Rothke's first. She's a former Olympian. She's incredible. She's high energy. She's just a ball of fun, and she'll be talking about perseverance. And so then you're second on stage because I want people thinking about in their minds before they hear anybody else talk. I want them to kind of map that out a little bit and hear you speak and gather those ideas, and then hopefully as we can build on that as we go through the day. So that's why I was strategic in putting you second, which can be intimidating if you're first or second. I get it, to speak on a big stage, but it's very important that we build on. So the way I've set the day up is very strategic. So that's why you're number two in the lineup. So Lynn's going to get them revved up to go. You're going to come in and you're going to give them something to think about, and we'll proceed through the day from there.
Well, and I think it is good to get them dreaming
Yes.
because honestly, that's the first step.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, "Oh, I know my dreams." And yet when I talk to them, they don't know them as well as they think they do.
Yeah.
And when we talk about setting the goals, and you and I are like, "Ooh, goals," but if you don't know where you're going, it's going to be really hard to get there,
Yeah.
and so wanting to know, like, where am I going to go, what is it that I want. And one thing about that, I'll say, that I feel like I went through, and I think others do as well, is that sometimes what you want to achieve is a secret that's so secret you don't tell yourself.
Ooh, I like that.
And it takes some thinking and reflecting to figure that out. And I really feel like with the energy and the power watts that we got going at Warrior, that people can be in a place to really admit to themselves
Yes.
where they're trying to go, what they really want, not what they think they should want, but what they really truly want to achieve.
I love that.
And having them figure that out at the start of the day will be really powerful, because then everything else can be framed into that, where they really want to go, and how far can I go and grow to.
Yeah.
It's all possible. We tell ourselves all kinds of ways that it's not, and once we believe in ourselves and what we're capable of, then we can achieve it. Not until we believe it. And so you have to know what it is and believe that you're capable of it, and
Yeah.
then you'll start getting it home.
Absolutely. And so that's kind of the unchaining process then. As you go through the event, you're literally unchaining that inner warrior to come out and fight for it, what it is you believe. And so then by the time you leave, not only should you know what your passion and purpose is, but now you've unlocked your potential and you've been given tools, and we're going to set you out into the world and like just watch you grow to, an unlimited height. So I'm just really excited for this year. If you don't have a ticket yet, go to warriorunchainedlive.com, or up in that corner above Consuela over there is a little QR code you can scan. So we keep tickets really low. So most events like this, an empowerment business event, you're going to pay between $200 and $600 at least a ticket. So thankfully, with sponsors and vendors and that, so we can keep tickets down to $97 for general admission, or you can upgrade to VIP, which is 167, which includes Pat Miller from the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator, and Susie Moon will be doing her comedy show, which I'm really excited about. So we have
I'm
networking, a
so
VIP.
excited for that show. I
Me
can't
too.
even take it.
I know I'm super stoked. Susie's a riot, and so yeah, I can't wait for that. So yeah, so Friday night VIP is networking, VIP dinner. So we have a really nice dinner, and then Pat Miller, who will be doing basically an idea slam with us live and in person. So that'll be great. And then Susie Moon, and then we start the full day on Saturday, and then Sunday we come back for brunch with Barb Monson, and then we'll have a panel of whichever speakers are still there who don't have to fly out or whatever, whoever's kind of left over. Hopefully most will be there, but we're going to do a panel. It'll be kind of a Q&A. What do I do now? Like, I just learned all this stuff. What's the first thing I can do to move the needle forward, and then build from there? So it'll be a great time for attendees to really, they're connecting with the speakers anyways throughout the event. Sunday's very laid back. Come in sweats if you want, sweatshirts, nobody cares. We're all going to be very chill on Sunday. So I'm excited for it. So
We'll probably have to be. If we stay there all Saturday night and make it to Sunday, we're going to have to be chill on Sunday.
which is why Sunday doesn't start till 10. It's, I
Ah,
don't I don't get you up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's not happening in my watch. I'm
oh
not a
my
morning
gosh.
person.
You know those conferences where you're like going and they have events till like midnight or 1 and then they
Yeah.
want you back at 7:30 the next day. It's like,
Like, are you kidding
should
me?
I just stay awake? Or yeah, I mean, that's nice to get a little
Yeah.
snooze in.
And people can come down a little early. I think we'll probably open the room around 9, 9:30. People can come down early, do a little networking before we get started for the day for brunch, and have Bar Monson speak and have the panel. And we're going to get you out of there by probably 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock. You'll be out the door. So it's not a super long day on Sunday because we know everyone's brains are going to be pretty much fried by Sunday. So, yeah, I'm excited. So go to warrioronchainlive.com and grab your tickets. And thank you so much, Consuela.
Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. What
Yeah,
a
I
way to
can't
spend
wait.
the afternoon.
Yeah, so this will be fun. So yeah, if you want to come and see Consuela speak live on the Warrior stage, make sure you grab your tickets. And Consuela will be putting her link in the comments after the live for her program coming up next month, which is only $27. Sorry, but you're an idiot if you don't grab it. It's that good. So grab that and take her up on our offer. So thanks again, Consuela.
Thank you.
All right, see you later, everybody.